And welcome to On the Hash with Hatfield, our weekly football podcast. And we're pleased to be joined by a special guest here on the program. He is the head football coach, I believe, in his fourth season at the helm. He'll correct me, of the Kings Fork Bulldogs in Suffolk. He started 3-0 or better every year, and that includes here in 2023, a couple seasons removed from a regional championship and a state semifinal appearance. And I'll tell you about his background, which is from Virginia Beach. He was a player at Ocean Lakes High School on the Shawan. We say hello to Coach Anthony Joffrion. Big game coming up on Friday night, Coach. It's a Suffolk rivalry showdown with you and the Bulldogs, you and the Warriors, I should say, of Nansemond River. Tell me about this matchup, and congrats on the great start to the season so far.
Yeah, it's been a great season, and really look forward to this game. More importantly, because just the city of Suffolk. I grew up in Virginia Beach, played at Ocean Lakes. I didn't really know what Suffolk was, growing up. It was known for farms and stuff like that. So when Scotty Littles hired me out here in 2016, I didn't really know what to expect in Suffolk. But then before you know it, it became a home. Me and my wife, we built a house here in Suffolk. I feel like I'm a Suffolk native now. But in 2016, football, to me, in the area, Suffolk really wasn't known for football. But I definitely want to say, now it's 2023. It's great to just see, how high Suffolk football has come. You got two really good teams going at it, 3-0. I want to make the argument it's probably the biggest game, in Suffolk football history. And if I know you probably know the answer to that, I definitely don't. But I'm willing to make that argument that this is one of the, biggest games in, Suffolk football history.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was on with my cohort on Saturdays on 757 Saturday Sports Talk, our podcast at the Plex with Coach Ed Young, who coaches basketball at Nansemond River. And I said, this might evoke memories of those great rivalry games of years back in the early to mid 2000s, I guess you could say, when it was Kings Fork and Nansemond River going mano a mano. By the way, if you need bulletin board material, he did call the puppy dog. So they're already starting a rivalry, trying to start the junk talk. And I know Alonzo Riggs doesn't want to hear that. He's like, why are you doing this, Ed, putting this bulletin board material? But I know there's a little spice added to it because last year you all fell in overtime to them. It certainly sparked them in a lot of ways, but you want to return the favor knowing what happened, I imagine, especially your seniors and juniors, the ones that felt the pain from that defeat.
Yeah, our kids, were a little, disappointed after that loss last year. But, what I always tell our players, when we win, it's because of the players, and when we lose, it's because of me, the head coach. So, at the end of that game last year, I could have kicked the extra point and tied it up, went to double overtime. But I said, let's go for the win. And, we came up about a yard short, and, that's how we lost. So, at the end of the day, it's never on the players. It's always on the head coach. And I stand by my decision a year later. I'd probably do the same thing again. But, it was an intense game last year. And I think this year, it has the makings to be a really good football game.
People know about how good Kings Fork is. I think the seminal moment of the program, you were an assistant there with Scotty Littles, was when you snapped the 99-game Southeastern District winning streak of Oscar Smith a few years back with Justin German and that crew going down the field to win it late. And for Nansemond River, their football program's been building as well, but it feels like that win over Oscar Smith. You played for Chris Scott, who's obviously the head coach at Oscar Smith when you played from at Ocean Lakes. Just that name, even though they have a couple losses, they may not feel like the same Oscar Smith. How much did that kind of, you think, add the extra eyeballs and antenna up for this game now, making it, oh my goodness, we got two Suffolk teams. We're used to having a Chesapeake team, whether it's Oscar Smith, Western Branch, who won the region championship a year ago, who you just beat, which we'll get to that game from a couple weeks back that was suspended and resumed. But it feels like now this has the makings of a game of the year. When you take down the Tigers, who have that aura and mystique about them, it does certainly put more eyeballs on your program, does it not?
Yeah, it really does. I want to say, I think, this is my third season. I don't really count. Well, yeah, I guess I can count the bubble. I mean, we played like a Suffolk bubble. But my first season as a head coach, we won the region. The only team we lost to in the district was Oscar Smith. We go head to head with them for the district championship, and we lost. And then last season, we were undefeated. Oscar Smith was undefeated, and they beat us again. And then I just think it's huge. Like this year, before the season, I mean, nobody would have said, Kings Fork and Nansmeond River are undefeated playing this early, and it has huge implications on the district. I don't think anybody would have said that. So I think it's a testament, to our program and their program as well, because Coach Ricks, He's a great guy. He does it the right way. And it's great just to, be on the field coaching against a coach who has his experience. And, just he does a great job with their culture over there.
For sure. And I want to get back to that matchup in a little bit here, but let's highlight some of your key performers thus far offensively and defensively. And let's start with the offense, because I know you were a little bit upset after the Churchland win. You got off to a great start in that game, didn't score in the second half, but you really picked it back up in that second game against Western Branch. You pitched a shutout in the game, so your defense played lights out. You also got good performances from your offense. You have a new quarterback that's starting for you, but I think the engine to your attack, tell me if I'm wrong, is Javon Ford, one of the best junior running backs in the entire state. He's talked about in the same conversation with players like Harry Dalton at Dinwiddie, who's a quarterback that runs the ball. Certainly the young man at Liberty Christian who's committed to Clemson, and Gideon Davidson, a number of great players in the state, Jeffrey Overton at Freedom of Woodbridge. To be in that company, it tells you that he's an elite player, does it not?
Yeah, he's very special. I mean, he can catch it out the backfield, line up at receiver, catch the ball, and of course he can run the football. But I think the most special thing about him is he's just a team guy, man. He's definitely the leader of our team. Our team will go as far as, his leadership takes us. He's very unselfish. He's really just concerned about his teammates and how they can get better. He challenges them every day in practice. He's a special kid. Typically when you have kids who get all this notoriety, have a lot of scholarships and things like that, sometimes they have an ego. But Javon Ford, he's a different type of kid. He really cares about team success.
It's funny you said that, because in running into him at different off-season type events, he's always very humble, cordial, shake your hand, yes sir, no sir type of kid. And from the quarterback spot, you want that type of leader. You've had the last few years with Cameron Butler, a 3-year, 4-year starter, but the young man right behind him, I remember you telling me in the summertime, we don't feel like it's going to be a drop-off whatsoever, because he got his feet wet as a freshman, got into a playoff game in DeAndre Artis Boone. The numbers have flashed across our little ticker on the screen here so far. Very, very good, as he's completed 32 of 47 passes for 453 yards, 9 touchdowns. Just speak on his efficiency and the I guess you could say chemistry he's putting with his wide receivers, because you have a pretty good 4, 5, 6 deep platoon of receivers to go with him.
Yeah, I think he has a chance to be one of the best in the state. He has the talent, has the arm strength, has the ability to run. And then he just has like the it factor. Like he's a true quarterback. He's the type of kid after practice, they're going to stay back, throw routes. He's the type of kid, he'll come in at 6 a.m. He's going to watch film. He's going to take it, he's not going to miss one workout from January up until camp. He's a true quarterback. Like he loves football. Like he's a true kid who just loves football, loves being a part of it. And it's just amazing to see, because, I've had him since 8th grade. I've known him since 7th, but in 8th grade, he started JV for us. Last year's 9th grader, went in against a tough Deep Creek team and found a way to get us the win. I just think he's very special, man. He has all the attributes colleges look for. Once he gets more experience and things like that, I think he's going to have a chance to be one of the best in this area.
And your defense has long been one of the better groups in the entire 7-5-7, going back to a couple of years ago when you had those devastating pass rushers with Devius Higgs and Kyrie Moisten, who went on to Virginia Tech. And you got a lot of returnees from a season ago, some big-time tacklers that are flashing across our screen here. And then a couple of new faces that have really, I think, impacted your secondary when you lost Kalitri Boyd, who was an all-state performer back there. The likes of Kayvon Blanding, who came in from Green Run, Darrell Wilson from Norcom, have really injected some extra athleticism and playmaking to your defensive backfield, have they not?
Yeah, so Kayvon, Choco Blandon, he's a special kid, man. He's gonna work hard. He has that dog mindset. He hasn't had a pass called on him all season. He has an interception. He probably has 8 pass breakups. He's just a special talent, man. But more importantly, he's a special kid. He's gonna work, and he's done a great job as a senior, just taking these young guys under his wing. With the defensive backs. He's just done a great job being a role model, staying after practice, getting extra work with them, hanging out with them, outside of practice. He's been huge for our defensive backs, just that they get to see like how it's really supposed to look. And he just does a great job of that.
Blanding last name certainly has a lot of cachet to it. Dad Kevin was a heck of a player back in the day running the football, and older brother Quinn was a great safety at Bayside, then the University of Virginia, where he was an All-American, all set a bunch of records for the Cavaliers. What would you to describe for folks that haven't seen your defense and have watched you play a lot in the last few years? It's really just a fast, physical group, and every level feels like when you're clicking, they have no fear whatsoever about them, and they're putting fear in another team, and you're getting those sacks, the TFLs, the tackles for loss, takeaways. How's this defense mirror some of the recent groups you have in terms of maybe the head of schedule, a little bit behind this area, or right on par? How do you kind of break them down or describe them for those that haven't watched you play a whole lot?
I would say this is the most experienced group I've had as a head coach. Most of these guys, have started last year or started as a freshman. It starts with Brandon June, our Mike linebacker. During COVID, that first season, he had to start as a freshman against Smithfield. And now he's a junior. He knows where everybody's supposed to line up, so he's huge. Joshua Pittman, who's getting a lot of college interest. He'll probably get his first Division I offer here shortly. Started inside backer for us last year. He's 6'2", 6'3", 210 pounds, and we moved him to defensive end. And he's special. He's number 11. He's special. Last year we had Nansmeond Gates. He started outside backer for us. We moved him to the defensive end, and he's been huge for us. And then you got the two big fellas inside, Cameron McDaniel and Justin Irby, two kids, they squat over for 500, bench a lot and can run. And then you got a 30 tackle, Brandon Weeks. I don't know where, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know where this kid came from. He came from North Carolina somewhere. I don't know, like the woods of North Carolina, and he just showed up like 3 days before camp. We made sure he was eligible, and he's a special kid. He reminds me of Sincere Quarterman, who I coached at Oscar Smith. He's the same type of kid like that. He had to get used to the scheme and everything, but he's a great kid, man. He's a different type of kid from North Carolina. And Zachary Walton, our free safety, he's been in the program since 8th grade. So we just have a lot of guys who've been in the program, have experience. And of course, Malachi Nixon. I mean, he's special. I mean, if he catches an interception, he's probably going to score. He had over 4 last year, had a pick 6 against Churchland. Malachi Nixon is definitely, up there with the heart and soul of our defense. A lot of experience. A lot of guys have been in the program.
Yeah, a lot of guys with experience and have been in the program for sure. Didn't mean to cut you off there, but it's funny. You have a lot of playmakers on that defense, Coach, and you mentioned getting the kid from North Carolina that comes through. You love having those unsung heroes, breakout performers. Yeah. I know, because you got the depth chart, you're assembling it, and then the guy just pops out of nowhere that's up further ahead of schedule you don't expect. We asked this last week on the podcast. I want to get your take here in the last few minutes. Nicknames. I know all you coaches have great nicknames for players. I want to say one of your guys was, I don't know if it was Meatball or Cheeseburger last year. Who's got the best nickname on the team this year? I know you guys give them out, and a lot of times those linemen up front.
So to be honest, the best nickname is the kid I was just talking about from North Carolina. We call him Moonshine, and he just I call him Mooney. His real name is Brandon Weeks. Definitely doesn't look like a Brandon Weeks, but his nickname is Moonshine because he's from North Carolina, and the kids love it. He loves it. I call him Mooney. I think he has 5 sacks on the season. He just goes in and just makes plays. We were scrimmaging Varina, and he can't go but so many plays, because he just got here kind of. We're playing Varina. He's just out there just throwing up on the field. Like, he's just a different type of kid. Like, he just goes so hard, and then he'll just throw up and stuff like that. But he's a great kid, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. You love the nonstop motor. Hey, Bill Russell used to throw it before every big game when he played for the Boston Celtics, the late great 11-time champion, and it worked out for him. He won games, so you never know. Whatever works for somebody, it works. Although I'm not one that would like to do that, and I never played football. So, last couple ones for you, Coach. We appreciate you coming on. Now, I know your kids have heard all about Kendrick Overton, what a talent he is. He was our Chicho's Pizza 757 football player a couple weeks ago. He's a dual threat quarterback. He's certainly, if you were to have Southeastern District voting, which I know you all wish you could return to doing, he would be player of the year candidate on the offensive side of the ball for sure. You got Manny Azaga, who's a JMU commit who does it on both sides of the ball. So take yourself away from the coaching game plan and strategy, because none of you guys ever give us any real intel to it. So if you're a fan watching the game, what's the more intriguing matchup for you? Again, take yourself out of the coaching headset. Is it how this Kings Fork defense, which is so good at flying around, contains that dual threat ability of Overton? Or is it going to be in the trenches, maybe your offensive line against their defensive front, trying to establish the run, get off the – what would be the matchup that most intrigues you, just stepping away from the coaching angle, preparing for it, that you think will interest the fans watching this game?
Yeah, I would say, definitely their quarterback, man. I mean, he's special, man. Not a lot of kids throw that many yards in a game. Not many kids can say they've beaten Oscar Smith at quarterback. There's not a lot of them. So he's a special talent. I remember in the Suffolk bubble, he was a freshman quarterback at Lakeland. I was like, this kid's going to be special. So he's been a 4-year starter in high school. He's a great kid. Had an older brother that actually played at Indian River. He's just a great kid. His nickname is AK. Like he's a great kid, man. He does everything the right way, leads their program. And then I love the kid Manny, who's committed to JMU. He is a special talent. Like, last year they never even put him at receiver. And this year, he's scoring 3 touchdowns against Deep Creek. I know last week, he was held to a little minimal, but that's because, Oscar Smith definitely game planned for him. And then I like number 8. His older brother's name was Philly. I call him Little Philly. I don't know why, but that's what people call him. He's a special talent. And then their running back, Nick Greer. I mean, he's a track kid, and he's just, he last week against Smith, I mean, he's just breaking off 80, 70-yard runs, which, is kind of unheard of against the Oscar Smith defense. So they have a lot of talent. Roman Soriano, their center, he's a kid who has a couple of Division II offers. Really good size. He's been in the program all 4 years. His older brother went to Nansmeond as well. I think he's at NSU or Elizabeth City State now. And then Shamael Hope, he is a really good player at D tackle and tackle. So I think there's a lot of really good battles. A lot of these kids grew up together. DeAndre and AK played for the same rec team. So, it's just a lot of these kids grew up together. So it's just very competitive.
Yeah, and lastly, Coach, get you on this. It feels like, they had a big game last week with Oscar Smith. You had one a couple weeks ago with Western Branch that got suspended because of weather. You play it, it gets called an official game after, I think, about 3 quarters or so, and you shut them out, which is a pretty big accomplishment since they won a region championship a year ago. The Southeastern District, week after week, you have a lot of those big games. You certainly have Indian River coming up soon as well. I think right after this game on your schedule. And what's that kind of do the district playing the teams, whether they're from Suffolk or not, whether it's a rivalry game with Nansemond or Lakeland or the teams from Chesapeake, as far as your journey of trying to make a splash in the postseason this year at the Class 5 level, because you moved up from Class 4 up to Class 5, where you're in a very tough region with Nansemond River, with Warwick, who's unbeaten, and with Maury, who's viewed as perhaps the best team in the state, regardless of classification, after their big 3 wins over the likes of Wise, Highland Springs, and Dinwiddie.
Yeah, I think for us, last year I feel like I've gotten better. So this is like year 3 as a head coach. The biggest thing is, man, we just got to get better every week. On paper, a lot of teams, should win games. Last year we probably should have won, the regional championship, but Warwick outplayed us that night, and they deserved that championship. But we just got to get better at just getting better every week. You want to be full stride when the postseason comes. You don't want to still be making little mistakes that, they carry on from week to week, and then they become habits. So I think for us, we really, truly just taking it week to week and spending more time on ourselves, spending more time evaluating what we did wrong. I think that's what, has made the difference this year. We're really just focusing on the little things before they become habits, and it hurts you later on in the season. And I feel like last year we didn't do the best job of that. We kind of coached it up, but then, it rears its ugly head, when you least expect it. So that's our main focus, just focusing on getting better every week.
Well, Coach, we appreciate the time here on the Hash with Hatfield on our podcast. Looking forward to the game Friday night at Kings Fork. Should be a big crowd for the Bulldogs playing host to the Warriors of Nansemond River. Let's hope that the rain stays away. We'll keep our fingers crossed with that, with Mother Nature and the weather that's in the forecast. And all the best this coming Friday night and beyond. We'll see you coming up this week.
Appreciate you, Matt.
Thank you so much. That is the head football coach of the Bulldogs of Kings Fork, Anthony Joffrion, with us here on the Hash with Hatfield. We will step aside, have a break, and come back and put the finishing touches on this edition of the podcast right here on our streaming YouTube channel with the Virginia Beach Sportsplex. Stay tuned, everyone.